Tuesday Cafe. I am Sean Canahan, and we are broadcasting live on August 20th from the studios of WMNF in Tampa. Today is primary election day in Florida, and we're going to take a close look at two congressional primaries that are on the ballot today. Polls are open until 7, so we're giving you a last-minute look at some candidates to help you make up your mind. We're going to hear from candidates in two congressional districts. The candidates in Florida's 14th district are hoping to unseat Democrat Kathy Castor from her position that represents parts of Pinellas and Hillsborough counties. The candidates for Florida's 15th congressional district hopes to unseat Republican Laurel Lee. She represents parts of Hillsborough, Pasco, and Polk counties. And you can find out more about registering to vote, about voting, and about the candidates on our Florida Voter Guide, which is at you can find that at wmnf.org/vote. Most of the challengers in these two races participated in a forum at the Tampa Tiger Bay Club on Friday. So I want to thank WMNF's Chris Young and also TBAE for this audio that we're going to bring you today. In the 15th Congressional District, Republicans Jennifer Barbosa and James Judge are running against incumbent Laurel Lee in today's primary election for Congress. Lee did not attend this forum, and the winner of today's primary will face Democrat Pat Kemp in November's general election. In the 14th District, there are 4 Republicans in today's primary. We'll hear from 3 of them: Rocky Rockford, Neelam Perry, Yashawn Jorder, and John Peters, who did not participate. The winner of today's Republican primary will face off in November against incumbent Democrat Kathy Castor and Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder, and also Christopher Bradley, who is not affiliated with the party and did not participate in this forum. In this first segment, we're going to hear the candidates introduce themselves. This is WMNF Tampa.
Thanks. Hillsborough County Commissioner Pat Kemp. I'm a Hillsborough County Commissioner countywide. That means I represent 1.5 million people. The congressional district I'm running for, that's 700,000 people. It's less than half the size of the district I now represent. I've been on the ballot, 65% of it's in Hillsborough County. I've been on the ballot 4 times here, and 4 of the times where I've won by 5%. Oh, sorry, okay. And just a little bit about me. I've always been there for transit and affordable housing as a county commissioner and been an advocate for that and for health care and for our health care plan. Most people don't know that I grew up in Washington, D.C., where I come from a family of 8 kids. I'm number 4. My father was in union leadership, and I went all through Catholic school. It was the church, the union, the family, and the community. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Nathaniel Snyder. I am on the ballot for November 5th for U.S. Representative in District 14. I am running to ensure that we, the people, remain on the ballot for 2024. We're going to be told throughout the election season, what's on the ballot, whether it's decency, whether it's no malarkey. But one thing that's going to be forgotten is that we, the people, are on the ballot for 2024, and I am running to ensure that we are protected under the Constitution.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rocky. I'm running for Congress. I'd like to thank you very much. I'd like to just start off by saying that, where we're sitting here today in the Cuban Club, that one of the strongest parts of my campaign is to protect us from socialism. And the Cubans, the Nicaraguans, and the Venezuelans, especially the Venezuelans who dealt with a terrible election a couple of weeks ago and are now still under the ruling thumb of a dictator who does nothing but hurt people. I come from a 33-year naval career. I retired as a U.S. Navy captain and commodore, and I bring a lot of experience to the table. And with my 30 years of experience in the government, I'm a really good choice to take over this district from someone who really hasn't been doing a whole lot, and we'll hopefully get more into that. But thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Dr. Neelam Perry. I'm running for the United States Congress District 14. I am a doctor for 40 years and have practiced in this area, helping people and saving lives. I have dedicated my life to the public service. And as a physician, as an immigrant, I realized the problems of immigration, discrimination, and the problems at every level of corruption that we are seeing in our community. I stand against it. As a physician, I have decided to now heal the society. So help me help you. Help me with your vote on August 20th to win this primary election, to beat Kathy Castor, who has not helped this community to the extent that we want. I have the ideas, I have the solutions to the problems of my community. So please vote for me on August 20th to be your Republican nominee. Thank you.
What's up, guys? My name is Ishan Jordan, and I am running for 14th District of Tampa Bay. I am running against Kathy Castor, so it pretty much tells you why I'm running. I'm running because there's $35 trillion we have in debt, and the decisions that are made in Congress have an effect on my life. I plan on being alive for the next 30 to 40 to 50 years. I have 3 kids under 6, and every decision that the congressmen in Congress make have an effect on my life. I'm a successful entrepreneur, and I want to make sure that we balance the budget, we close our borders, and we make sure that we put term limits in place. So this whole debacle that's happening in Congress now with people never retaring does not continue. Our country is headed to a cliff, and I want to make sure that we turn this ship around. So for the next generation and frankly my generation, we want to make sure that our country is led by us. I don't think that in the next 30 to 40 years I want to look back and look at a $90 trillion debt. So that's why I'm running, and you should vote for me.
Hello, I'm James Judge. Thank you so much. I was born and raised here in the Tampa Bay area. I served in the U.S. Coast Guard, served in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I served in Afghanistan with the Department of Defense. Today I own a small business, and I actually was the nominee for the 14th District last cycle. This cycle I'm running against Laura Lee. My wife and I live in Dade City, and we love the area. We love the Lord. We love this country. We're sick and tired of what we've seen going on around here. We have $35 trillion in debt, $220 trillion in unfunded liabilities. Congress has a 13% approval rating. 13%. Think about that for a second. Is there anyone here that's happy with their congressman or congresswoman? Oh, wow, okay. Well, good for you. I'm not. I think we should fire every single member of Congress. I really do. I think every single member of Congress is garbage. And you could see it by the policies that are happening. You can see it by the open border. We have 30 million migrants that have come in across the border over the last 10 years, and it's unacceptable. If we think that lawlessness is acceptable, then, maybe I'm not for you. But if you want law and order, I'm the guy.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Barbosa. I'm running for Congress in the 15th Congressional District, also running against Laurel Lee. I'm the kind of Republican who still believes strongly there was fraud in the 2020 election. I believe our J6ers are being unfairly persecuted, and I believe the COVID lockdowns did much more harm than they did good. I'm originally from the Tampa Bay area. I grew up in St. Petersburg. I've also lived in Los Angeles, where I ran against Adam Schiff in 2020. Did not win that race, but I was elected to a local office there. I currently live in Plant City in the heart of the district. I'm the only candidate in this race who lives in the district. My priorities are securing our border, balancing our budget, and protecting all of our God-given constitutional rights. Thank you very much. Jennifer Barbosa.
Well, you can see the stage is set for a pretty exciting debate here. So those were the candidates for Florida's congressional districts 14 and 15. We just heard Republicans Jennifer Barbosa, James Judge, Ishan Jordan, Neelam Perry, and Rocky Rockford. Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder and Democrat Pat Kemp. Today is primary election day, I want to remind you, and polls are open until 7. So you can find out more about registering to vote, about voting, and about the candidates on our Florida Voter Guide, which is at wmnf.org/vote. We're going to hear the candidates next. They'll be answering a question about abortion laws. This is WMNF Tampa.
Thank you for being here. Some candidates are too chicken to show, so this is good. My name is Kathy Betancourt, and I have a question about something that's been troubling me for a long time. Republican women have abortions. Republican men pay for abortions for their wives, their sisters, their friends, their daughters. And yet, for some reason, the Republican Party has made this choice a partisan issue. Why is this choice a partisan issue when people who have had abortions, maybe some in this room, it's a private thing? You don't know about it because it's none of your business. Please help me understand.
Is that to everyone? Is that to all the candidates? Okay. That's great. Starting out strong. Thank you, Kathy. We'll start on the end with Pat.
Running for U.S. House 15, I will say that the incumbent celebrated the overturn of Roe v. Wade and has remained silent since. I can guarantee you that I will not make this a partisan issue and that I will do everything I can to restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land in the state of Florida, in the nation, 100%, as it has been in Florida for 50 years. And I condemn that has happened. I will not stand for people taking away our rights and then celebrating that. I also, I have 2 granddaughters. I want to see a future for them too.
That was Pat Kemp. This is Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder.
Thank you for the question, Betancourt. I don't believe that the government has any say in what we decide to do with our bodies. So I do not support the federal government putting legislation out for you guys, or with regards to what you decide to do with your body. I don't support it on a federal or a state level, so it would not get my vote for or against.
Next up is Rocky Rockford, who's running for District 14.
Well, thanks very much for the question. I do appreciate it. I will tell you that I am pro-life. That is my opinion. That's where I stand. I'm a Christian, and I hold Christian values very dear to my heart. I will tell you that from a person running for office, my position would be that it has been taken away from the federal government and been given to the states, and I'm not running for a state office. If it comes back to, if it comes back to the U.S. House of Representatives, I would be glad to readdress it. But right now, I would say I'm completely against it, and leave it in the hands of the states.
Next up is Neelam Perry.
Hi. I totally disagree with the rest of my opponents. I'm a woman, and I am for women's rights. Thank you. If a child has the right to his life, so does the woman. A woman's life is as important as the child. Yes, I am pro-life. I'm pro-life where it is a salvageable, viable baby. Not if a fetus is dead in a woman's body and a court of law tells her, do not abort. That dead fetus can turn into a molar pregnancy, which can then become into a molar cancer. This is what we are? No, everybody has a human right to life. Why should a woman be disregarded just to be a polarized decision, pro-life and pro-choice? It has to be a balance. I'm bipartisan in that. Yes, there would be indications. All I'm trying to say, a medical termination of pregnancy is allowed. Thank you.
Next up is Ishan Jordan.
Thank you for the question. And like Rocky said earlier, it is left to the states. My personal views on it, I have 3 kids that are under 6, and I don't believe in abortion. But at the same time, I think that if it's something that's medically necessary, we as lawmakers should not be involved in it. It's none of our business to be to be involved in something so personal in somebody's life. It's a personal matter. And women should be able to choose how they want to proceed with that. I am also pro-life. That you can't. I'm not for late-term abortions, and I am not for killing babies after they're born. Like, that's extreme. I don't think that that's okay with anyone here. But I think we can definitely all come to agree on something in the middle ground and stick with it and not make it such a big issue.
Next up is James Judge.
So I'm 100% pro-life, but to answer your question, I think Republicans and Democrats make this an issue because they like to divide us, and division creates awesome opportunities for fundraising, and this whole thing is a disgusting business. Politics is a nasty business, and they love to divide us so they can raise money and they can keep their power on both sides. At the end of the day, from a legal, pragmatic standpoint, I think that there are clearly reasons, ectopic pregnancies, there's reasons why there is a need to terminate a pregnancy. But when it comes to having an abortion as a type of birth control, I think that's morally wrong, but I also think that's between a person and God. And I think that everyone here is going to have to answer the Creator one day, and they'll have to deal with that. So, but I am pro-life, and that's my answer.
Next up is Jennifer Barbosa.
Hi. I just recently became pro-life, say like in the last 10 years. And the reason I went from pro-choice to pro-life is because the left has been pushing the issue and trying to make abortion legal up until the time of birth. This Amendment 4, which we have on the ballot, allows for abortion up until the time of birth. It does. It does. I know you're shaking your heads no, and that's great that you're shaking your heads no, because that means that you don't agree with abortion up until the time of birth. So I wish that you would research this more. I know that most people fall in the middle. They want it, they think that maybe 15 weeks is appropriate. And if you would research this bill, you would find that this goes far past what you probably agree with. Thank you very much.
Well, those were candidates for Florida's congressional districts 14 and 15. We just heard Republicans Jennifer Barbosa, James Judge, Ishan Jorder, Neelam Perry, and Rocky Rockford. We heard Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder and Democrat Pat Kemp. Today is primary election day. Polls are open until 7 o'clock. So today is the last day that you can vote in the primary. I want to read a couple of emails that have come in. We have an email from Bubba who is talking about a race that we're not featuring today. He says, I was surprised by all the Layla Collins flyers I got in the mail. Layla Collins is running for school board, District 1 in Hillsborough County, and the main opponent is Nadia Combs, who is the incumbent there. And Bubba continues, they make a great bonfire. I can't stand DeSantis-backed Moms for Liberty blowhards like Collins. That's the comment that came in from Bubba. Also, David writes in, I hope that Pat Kemp wins her congressional race. She's an amazing public servant and is super smart. And David continues by saying, election deniers like Barbosa need to be deprogrammed from the Trump cult. So if you want to find out more about these candidates or about voting, you can go to wmnf.org/vote. We have our Florida voter guide there. It tells you all about registering to vote, how to vote, where you can go to vote and things like that. It also has all the candidates answering our questions, the ones that answered that we put to candidates. So we're going to hear next. All the candidates are going to answer a question about the federal deficit. And you're listening to WMNF Tampa.
Hi, I'm Patrick Bescat. Several of you mentioned the deficit. I believe you did, young man, and unfunded mandates, those sorts of things. So here's my question. Tax cuts. Everybody is for a tax cut. So the big question is, would you means test a tax cut? So would you give the same tax cuts offered if you were voting in Congress to working people, middle class, as you would to the billionaires? Is there a differentiation that you would discern as a member of Congress?
No, I would. I'll take it first. I don't know if this is for everybody. Okay. So no, I would actually. I would like to abolish the income tax. I'd like to have a flat percentage-based sales tax, federal sales tax. We need to reel in federal spending. We need to look at every aspect of federal spending. The federal government is way larger than what it was originally envisioned as. If you look at the enumerated powers, our federal government, every single day, our elected officials take more power than what it was laid out in the Constitution. We have a government that is just grossly oversized. Most of the power is actually supposed to be pushed back down to the states. So from a federal standpoint, there's certain things that we're responsible for, military, post office, currency, but overall, I think that we need to rein in federal spending massively and change the way that we do taxes. It's way too complicated and the average person can't do it, and it's unconstitutional for someone to be demanded by the IRS to provide their tax information without a warrant. And we see that constantly, that people are audited and they don't have a warrant. So that'd be a violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Thank you, and I'm so sorry I got your name wrong, Mr. Judge. We're going to go back and start with Mr. Snyder.
That was James
Thank you,
Judge.
Patrick.
This is Nathaniel Snyder.
I believe taxation is theft. I would prefer to see more of a fair tax option where you're paying on new purchases, that on your tax at about 23%. So I don't support any form of tax. So I believe in no tax.
Now, Mr. Richford.
Oh, this is Rocky Rochford.
No, Ms. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the one. Yes,
okay.
Perfect.
I don't know who's in the Zoom. So that's a great question. $35 trillion. The interest payment alone is 2/3 of the amount of money brought in by the U.S. federal government every year, just to pay the interest. And we keep spending. I completely agree the government is far too big. Is far too big. When you talk about taxes, there's a couple that are in the news recently, and I want you to know that I support no tax on tips, and I also agree with no tax on Social Security. It is far too long that we are double and triple taxed along our lives. The government needs to stop. Smaller government, better for the people. Sorry.
I agree that our deficit is so high, but the problem is the economic policies the Democrats have brought into the country.
This is Neil and Perry.
We need to change those policies. We need better trading policies and more incentives for the new kind AI and other trading platforms. We need to agree with a lot of contested issues with cryptocurrency. So we have to widen our investments and reduce taxes by increasing revenue for our people. Thank you.
Coming up next is Ishan Jordan.
I think this whole system is rigged. We pay taxes. I started paying taxes when I was 15 years old. I remember getting my first check when I used to work at Chick-fil-A. And I remember getting my first check, and it was like Social Security, Medicare, tax. I'm like, what is all this? And then, fast forward 25 years, 26 years, and I'm like, and now people are talking about, they're going to cut down on, we're going to cut down Social Security spending because we have too much money. They're talking about, cutting down on Medicare spending because we don't have enough money for this. While on the same breath, they're talking about sending billions and billions of dollars overseas in wars. We're paying $19,000 a hammer. We're paying $100,000 for a bag of bearings. This whole system is rigged and it needs to be completely readdressed from top down. We don't want this, and we want to change all this corruption that's in government.
Coming up next is Jennifer Barbosa.
To answer your question, I do not believe we should raise taxes on anybody. I believe that we should reduce our spending. The incumbent against whom I'm running, Laurel Lee, she votes for every $1 trillion spending bill, and that is why we're in this mess in the first place, and I would not go along with that.
I think...
Yeah, Ms. Kemp, you didn't answer that, right?
Right. And I'll just say that that over and over and over again during Republican administrations, they're giving tax breaks to the very, very wealthy. We have a more inequitable system in the U.S. in terms of pay than we've ever had historically for years and years, and it is choking us. It is hurting us tremendously. And I'm totally supportive of the Biden and the new-to-be Harris administration looking at not extending the Trump cuts on the very wealthy, tax cuts on the very wealthy, as well as looking at what we can do for anyone that's earning over $400,000. They should be paying more into this infrastructure in this great nation.
Those were candidates for Florida's Congressional Districts 14 and 15. We just heard from Democrat Pat Kemp. Before her, we heard Republicans Jennifer Barbosa, Ishan Jordan, Neil Perry, and Rocky Rockford. We heard Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder and Republican James Judge. We're playing this because today is primary election day and polls are open until 7 o'clock. We're going to hear the candidates from Districts 14 and 15 answer a question now about Social Security. This is WMNF Tampa, where you're listening to Tuesday Cafe.
Rick Pfeiffer. I have a question because one of the things that gets talked about is in entitlements. I'm 62 years old, going to get Social Security soon. I've listened for 40 years, cutting Social Security benefits. The government has spent and spent. When there's a surplus, you want to give tax credits. Social Security has been robbed for 40-some years, and they want to cut entitlements. How many of you want to cut entitlements? Because all that is, it is cutting the money that the government has borrowed from the Social Security Trust Fund so you don't have to make good on the debt. And that has largely been a Republican position. Thank you.
So the question, would you cut entitlements? We'll start really this time with Mr. Richford.
Well, thanks. That's a very good question. I would tell you that I get asked a lot about Social Security. And I'll tell you that from what I know and what I watch going on up in Washington, D.C., instead of planning ahead, there's a lot of reaction instead of being proactive. And if Social Security, first off, I don't think that's correct. According to the research that I've done, the annuity that originally was established for Social Security has never been touched. No one has ever touched a penny in there, but it was never anticipated that this many people would be taking from it. So now we know that if it comes up to 2034, when it's supposed to run out, the Congress is going to go, hey, we'll throw a couple of $1 trillion at it and that'll take care of that. So we know that's going to happen. So Social Security is not in jeopardy.
That was Rocky Rockford. This is Neil and Perry.
Well, I believe that everybody puts in throughout their lifetime of their earnings into Social Security, and their Social Security should be protected, and it should be the federal government's responsibility to ensure that. And to do that, we have to have enough financially literate people saving our Social Security with proper investments and proper protections. I feel that according to the cost of living, the Social Security payments should increase, and also that there should be extra benefits added as the demand increases. Thank you.
So, you guys want to know a fun fact? The federal government has failed its audit for the past 6 years consecutively. If we know one thing, it's that the government does not know how to spend money or how to at least balance the budget. And if we leave the government in charge of Social Security, it's not gonna last. So what I think it is that we have our priorities all screwed up. Social Security is something that to me is very high up on my priority list. I'm America first. I care about the people in my country. My focus is helping the people in my country, especially into a program that we all paid into since I was, like I said, since I was 15 years old, I've been paying into that. So for me, talking about taking that program away versus all the other, bloated spending that we have is absurd.
So I don't want to get rid of Social Security. I'd like to prevent the massive inflation that's occurring because we keep spending trillions of dollars that we don't have. At the end of the day, you've got, Laura Lee voted for a $1.2 trillion spending package. She just voted to give another $100 billion away for free to Ukraine. Think about that for a second. We're borrowing money that we don't have to give away for free to other countries, which we're printing more money, which means that the cost of living goes up, which means that Social Security check isn't worth as much, so you can't buy as many groceries. I want to prevent that from happening. So I don't want to take away Social Security. I'd like to balance the budget, stop spending more than we take in. I'd like to stop borrowing money to give away for free to foreign countries. I'd like to loan it. We can loan it to foreign countries and charge an interest rate on it. But that's when we actually have a surplus. We need to take care of our own first and love our neighbors.
That was James Judge. Next
Hi,
is
sir.
Jennifer
You said
Barbosa.
in the beginning that Republicans want to get rid of entitlements, but every Republican up here has said that they don't want to. I agree with them. We don't want to. I don't want to get rid of entitlements. Want to do away with the waste, fraud, and abuse in the system and cut spending in other ways.
Well, it's funny to hear that because the Republicans in Congress, and we know Rick Scott wants to sunset our Social Security every 5 years. And the Republicans in Congress have over and over again talked about cutting it. We just had the 89th anniversary of the introduction of Social Security because too many older Americans were in total poverty. I will do everything I can to support and strengthen and bring that into to help the Social Security system. We shouldn't be raising the age, which is another thing that has been bantered about by Republicans, and we shouldn't be cutting the benefits, and it will most affect women of color that are older. That's who most of the cuts affect.
That's Democrat Pat Kemp. Next, we're going to hear from Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder.
So the average American over 35 years is going to invest $383,000 into Social Security. I don't support any legislation or any attempts to cut the funding or to increase any ages for Social Security.
Well, those were candidates for Florida's congressional districts 14 and 15. We just heard from Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder, and before that, Democrat Pat Kemp, and Republicans Jennifer Barbosa, James Judge, Ishan Jorder, Neil and Perry, and Rocky Rockford. Today is primary election day, and polls are open until 7 o'clock. I'm going to read a couple of the emails that have come in. We have Jackie in Clearwater who is saying that a true democracy educates the youth. She asks, why is Florida ranked 4th in GDP but 49th or 50th in teacher salaries and 49th or 50th in per student spending? So thanks for that question, Jackie. Also, someone in the 239 area code said, you just played a clip of a Republican gentleman stating that the left and the right both are trying to divide us. I do not agree with that statement. This person says, I see the Republicans dividing us far more than the Democrats. I am not a Democrat or a member of any party, but the Democrats are the only ones that still have a foot propping the door to reality and helping people open. So thank you to the 239 area code for sending in that text message. Also, Sandra writes in from St. Petersburg, says, the Black community is told to achieve change by voting, but 3 Uhuru movement leaders go to trial in Tampa federal court on September 3rd on baseless charges of being secret pawns in a Russian conspiracy to sow discord and interfere in elections. And that has to do with the 2017 and 2019 local candidates that Uhuru ran on a reparations platform. Sandra continues to say that Green Party presidential nominee Jill Stein will be one of the many speakers at a national rally on Saturday, August 31st outside the Uhuru House in St. Pete in support of the Uhuru 3. And she says that speakers will include Akili Anai, who is on today's ballot for city council in St. Petersburg. Sandra ends her email with the website handsoffuhuru.org. So thanks to everyone who's writing in while we're listening to these voices on primary election day. Next up, we're going to hear the candidates in Congressional Districts 14 and 15 answer a question about Donald Trump losing the 2020 election.
Gary Dalton. I believe it was Ms. Barbosa who said she believes the 2020 election was fraud and that the January 6 people in prison are prisoners. I wonder how you come to that opinion when there are 6 different states with 6 different governors and tons of counties who ran these elections, and the governor of Georgia and Arizona, which Biden won, were campaign endorsers of Trump, certified the election for Trump. Trump's own attorney general said there was no fraud, and his Homeland Security chief said it was the most secure election in history. And the people in jail right now have either pled guilty or been found guilty by juries of beating the crap, many of them, out of law enforcement officers. So I'd like to hear from each of the candidates, do you believe, based on especially that other Republicans were elected on the same ballot that Biden was elected on, do you believe that the election was fraudulent? And do you believe that the people in prison for their acts on January 6th are political prisoners?
This is Jennifer Barbosa.
So this is just for the Republicans, is that what you're saying? I'd like to hear. Everybody? Okay. So, but since the statement was made by Ms. Barbosa, I'll start with her. Okay. And then we'll come back and start with Ms. Perry.
Okay. Sir, you said, do I believe the 2020 election was fraudulent? I believe what I said, that the 2020 election was rife with fraud. And yes, it was, and that's not new. There's been fraud since the beginning of American elections. Evidence of fraud. There's a great documentary called 21 Mules by Dinesh D'Souza. That's a great primer. It is? Have you debunked the information in that documentary, or do you just not like the conclusions in it? As far as January 6th is concerned, there were government assets in that group agitating the crowd, and there are people who are sitting in prison for trespassing. And that's a very unfair way to treat them. They're being politically persecuted because they happen to be there on Capitol grounds on that day.
That was Jennifer
All right, we'll
Barbosa.
go back to Ms. Perry.
This is Neelam Perry.
And go down the line. Got it?
Hi. The issue is whether there was election fraud and whether the election was right in 2020. My opinion is the election process is still not perfect. Whether there's evidence or not, I do not believe that the election was fair. Whether Republicans could prove it or not, it doesn't matter. And we still have those problems. The issue is enough evidence could not come out, and that is not only in this matter, that's a problem in our legal system. So it not only says that the legal system, election system is inaccurate, it's also the legal system. Thank you. My time is up.
And next is
All right.
Ishan
Since
Jordan.
Democrats want to keep blaming Republicans on this panel about every issue that they have, let's just put some facts out. The 16 out of the past 20 years has been led by Democrats in power. Why haven't you guys fixed those problems in those 16 years? All the things that Kamala is saying that she's going to do, why does she not do that now? As far as to the election goes, the most debt people that ever voted in the history of America was in that election. So if you want to, if that's not, if you don't, I'm not going to say they say it's fraud. You know what? Maybe it's not fraud. Maybe dead people do vote. But in this case, the most amount of dead people that ever voted was in this election. We burnt down the entire country throughout that election year, and nobody went to jail for the BLM protest. But yet, when patriots in this country go to defend our rights and our constitutional rights, we get thrown in jail for walking into our capital that we pay for as taxpayers. So I don't know I don't know what you define as fraud, but maybe that's not fraud.
Thank you, Don. Yeah, let's try to keep to the time, please. I know it's short, but we have a lot of candidates.
Next is James.
A lot of people wonder why good people don't run for office, and it's because you sit here and laugh at us and mock us while we're up here trying to answer your questions. And the bottom line is some people do believe that, in fact, a huge majority of people in this population, maybe not majority, a huge percentage of people in this country believe that the election was stolen. So that's a problem. I worked in PR where if the public believes that there's a problem, you have a problem. It's a perception issue. So we have some major division in this country, and yes, I do believe there was some fraud occurs. I believe there's fraud occurs in every election, including on the GOP side. I think the GOP is equally as corrupt as the Democratic Party. I think they're both corrupt. And I think it's wrong, and I think we need to get back to some fair and balanced elections. Regarding the riots are wrong no matter what side it occurs on. When we burn down cities, it's wrong. When people break into a building, it's wrong, but they were also waved in by police and invited in. And there are people taking selfies that are in prison. What's with you, dude? Nice like smears and everything else, whatever, smirks. It's great, keep it up.
That was Republican.
Wonder why
James
there's no
Judge.
good people running. Seriously.
Coming up next is Democrat Pat Kemp.
Yes, Ms. Kemp.
Thank you. These allegations that this somehow was not a fair election, was not an accurate election, have been debunked over and over and over again. It's been brought to court more than 65 times. There was so much evidence given there by Patrick Biscuit in the question, thank you. It was horrid to see what happened on January 6th, and it should only be condemned. And all of those thousands that have been sentenced to prison in jury trials deserve to be there. No one has proven any, just as he said, is that out? No, okay. This is just terrible that this is being put out like this when it was the fairest and most accurate elections that this country has ever had by all accounts.
That was Pat Kemp. Coming up next is Nathaniel Snyder, who is running as a Libertarian in District 14, that is.
I'll keep it quick. It's 2024. I really don't care what happened in 2020 anymore.
Up next is Rocky Rockford, a Republican.
Boy, I don't know. You guys had any tomatoes? I don't want to be thrown at anything. So, with my long naval career, one of the things that I've always done is I've done a root cause analysis. I go look at a problem and I've studied it to the nth degree to try to figure out. And I go read and I watch videos from CNN. I watch videos from Fox News. I try to get a broad view of what we're looking at. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea if there was fraud or not fraud. I've seen, they've just come out in Georgia, where they said that, look, there's clearly fraud here. And then I've seen other places where it says there wasn't any. So I don't have access to the kind of information that's out there to be able to tell me whether or not if there was fraud or not.
Well, those are candidates for Florida's Congressional Districts 14 and 15. We just heard from Republican Rocky Rockford, and before him, Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder, Democrat Pat Kemp, and Republicans James Judge, Ishan Jordan, Neelam Perry, and Jennifer Barbosa. We're listening to this debate because it's primary election day today. Polls are open until 7 o'clock, and you can find out more about registering to vote, about voting, and about the candidates on our Florida Voter Guide, which is at WMNF.org/vote. We're going to hear some more answers to the questions in just a moment, but I want to read one of the emails that just came in. It's from Fez, that is, in Bradenton, and I'll try to read some of this. It's kind of long. Fez is responding to one of the candidates, and he says, "It is not free money to Ukraine." He goes on to say, Republicans consider they don't want to cut exercise and they want to make good getting rid of other fees or something, but our history does not support them in any sense. If you collect Social Security, do you get paid out more than you get put in? For example, you get Social Security from childhood, which you only get from your parents what they paid. And Fez continues, so I appreciate everyone who is participating today as well. Let's continue with hearing from these candidates from Congressional District 14 and 15, which is parts of Pinellas, Hillsborough, Pasco, and Polk counties. Next up, they're going to answer a question about migrants.
Recently, the governor of the state of Texas passed a bill that, if successful, would save the taxpayers of Texas money. The bill would require all hospitals in the state of Texas to send a list of names and contact information to the state of Texas of all people who cross the border illegally, migrants, illegal immigrants, what the cost of their emergency medical funds were when they went into a hospital for either an emergency or medical treatment. The bill passed by the state of Texas would go to the federal government, require the federal government to compensate Texas for all those bills. If that's, fingers crossed, if that ever happens, would that be something we'd like to do here in the state of Florida? End of question.
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Jorder.
Bill on that's going to save money. I mean, I'm all for any bill that's going to save the taxpayers money. And also, I don't mind paying taxes. I'll pay my taxes, no problem. But the only time where I see a problem with it is when my taxes being spent in a way that I feel like I'm being robbed. I don't mind paying taxes, but I don't like being robbed. So any bill that saves us tax dollars, I'm okay with.
That was Ishan Jorder. Next is James.
I'm not sure I understand that question entirely. Were you saying that Texas passed a bill that if whatever migrants that are here illegally, they're going to send that bill to the federal government, essentially? Got it. Okay. I'm running for federal office, but as a voter in Florida, I would support Florida doing the same thing, absolutely.
Yes, I would support Florida doing the same thing, but if we're elected to federal office, would I vote for the taxpayers to pay for the medical bills of illegal immigrants? No, I would not.
That was Jennifer Barbosa.
It would be a great way. It's a great ploy by the governor of Texas to highlight the costs that illegal immigrants are creating for our country. So it's good PR, but I don't think we should pay for, whether it's on the state level or the federal level, we should pay for illegal immigrants. They're not supposed to be here.
Ms. Kemp?
Yes, she said it. Great ploy, performative. If we care about getting Florida's investment, we need to care about the expansion of Medicaid. We're one of 10 states in the country that has not expanded Medicaid. What that means is that on our tax bills that we're paying, we are providing every single year $5 billion going out of the state of Florida to pay for 40 other states, Republican states, to pay for their health care and their health care infrastructure, because we won't expand. Our Medicaid expansion is not happening. And that is really, really hurting us. Do you know that last month, or in the last few months, and this is cruel and unusual, the state of Florida dropped 660,000 children off Medicaid. That's horrible.
That was Democrat Pat Kemp. Next is Nathaniel Snyder, a libertarian.
So when it comes to your question, the taxpayers are already paying for that. So if it comes down to the federal government voting in favor of returning the money back to the sovereign states, I say yes.
Next up is Rocky Rockford, a Republican.
So I've been married to my beautiful bride of 33 years, and she's a registered nurse. And a friend of hers here in Tampa introduced us, and she's a registered nurse. And now she runs an ER up in upstate New York. And I think this is not so much, you've hit on a very prominent issue right now, which is all of the illegal immigrants are coming into our country with diseases that have been eradicated from the United States for decades. And they are making us all sick, and there is no answer to how this is going to... Our funding for these programs is binding on that $35 trillion and the $1 trillion interest payment on it. So anyway, I think you get my point.
That was Rocky Rockford. Next is Neelam Perry.
Well, I don't think that Americans should be responsible for the payments for the medical bills of illegal immigrants. They should be deported, and that should be one of the reasons that since they can't take care of their medical or other financial issues, we should not be responsible and money from our taxpayers and our Social Security be spent on illegal immigrants. These are the places where the terrorists, the drug dealers, the human trafficking, and the border security is the issues. So I will not support any payments to such bills. Thank you.
Well, those are candidates for Florida's congressional districts 14 and 15. We just heard from Republicans Neelam Perry and Rocky Rockford, Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder, Democrat Pat Kemp, and Republicans Jennifer Barbosa, James Judge, and Ishan Jorder. We're playing this because today is Election Day and polls are open until 7 o'clock. You can find out more about registering to vote, about voting, and about the candidates on our voter guide at wmnf.org/news. Next up, the candidates are going to answer a question about gun violence.
Good afternoon. My name is Bishop Michelle B. Patty, and I'm speaking as a Christian. I've been hearing it quite a bit about pro-choice, so I'd like to know about the lives that are being lost during mass shootings, the lives that are being lost at schools, churches, different places, and how many of you all are willing to take on the gun manufacturers and tighten up the laws with the gun manufacturers, since you all are pro-choice, because those lives matter too.
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Judge.
So it's currently illegal to kill people, right? We would all agree that it's illegal to murder somebody, and that's probably wrong. I mean, I would agree. I think everybody agrees with that. That's a law already. So we're going to pass another law and get rid of guns? No. I'd actually like to arm more people. I'd like to encourage everybody to carry. I have a concealed carry permit, and I would encourage everybody to carry. It's our constitutional right. The Bill of Rights is from God. Our right of self-defense, our right of freedom of speech, our right of worship, our right to not have the government come into our home and take things that without a warrant. All those rights that are enshrined in the Bill of Rights come from God, not from government, and it's government's job to protect those rights and to make sure they're not taken away from us. So no, I would not go after guns, and I wouldn't go after gun manufacturers. I would ask more Americans to get armed and protect their fellow citizens.
That was Republican James Judge. Coming up next is Democrat
I don't think
Pat
we
Kemp.
should go after gun manufacturers with respect to shootings any more than we should go after car manufacturers with respect to car accidents or knife manufacturers with respect to stabbings. It's illogical.
Sorry, that was Republican Jennifer Barbosa.
We are
Next is Pat
losing
Kemp.
more children to this country. The number one cause of death is guns. That is for children in America. And I'll do everything I can to support common sense gun laws, background checks that haven't been, federal background checks that haven't been done. And we should not have automatic weapons on our streets to go and slaughter hundreds of people with a single gun in our schools, on our streets, in our community. That should not be there.
That was Democrat Pat Kemp. Next is Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder.
So shall not be infringed is a constitutional command. It's not a suggestion. So we can sit there and say that, guns are slaughtering the people on the streets, but there is somebody holding the gun behind it. The trigger did not pull itself. We need to start dealing with the mental illness in the United States that is causing the individuals to pick up those guns and pull the triggers.
Next up is Rocky Rockford.
Bishop, it's a pleasure to see you, ma'am. I'm glad that you asked that question. I think we talked about it on your radio show too, if I remember correctly. But I think what you're alluding to is a bigger problem. Again, root cause analysis. Where does this come from? The people who are shooting children, right, are troubled. they can't be in their right mind because they wouldn't shoot children. So I advocate for, let's evaluate from a distance elementary schools, junior high schools, and identify with trained professionals that can go, this person, this kid here could be trouble in the future. Because then we identify the problem before it becomes a problem. Let's help solve mental illness in our country and stop going after guns, because they are only the tool.
Rocky Rockford, and next up is Neelam Perry.
I believe that people have their Second Amendment right, but your right stops when the other person's right to life begins. So I am very strong to have very balanced gun laws. Not only background checks before somebody buys a gun, we need to do a MMPI, a mental evaluation check, to make sure the person is mentally stable. I want training to be taken for registration. They have to have a training for safety so that their guns is safely protected. Even if they have them, no child can get it, nobody else can get it. And if it does, they should be held responsible. The guns, the manufacturers have to also follow these rules. Thank you.
That was Neelam Perry. Next is Ishan Jordan.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Well, if you're going to talk about a topic, you should have some at least minimal knowledge about the topic. So let's talk about background checks. If any of you guys actually went out to buy a gun, which I do all the time, there's extensive background check that you have to go through to get a gun. Now you can say it, you can deny it all you want. The laws are already in place. And to what she was talking about, automatic guns, it's already illegal to have an automatic gun. There's no such thing. Nobody has an automatic gun legally. I have one because I have that kind of license, but nobody has an automatic gun. As far as this topic goes, I took my kids out of public school, put them into a school with my church, because there's an armed security guard in the front and the back. That's how I protect my kids. My 6-year-old goes out and shoots with me. He knows gun safety very well, and I think that's my stance on it. No, shall not be infringed.
Well, those are candidates for Florida's congressional districts 14 and 15. We just heard from Republicans Ishan Jordan, Neelam Perry, Rocky Rockford, Libertarian Nathaniel Snyder, Democrat Pat Kemp, and Republicans Jennifer Barbosa and James Judge. We heard them because today is primary election day. Polls are open until 7 o'clock, and you can find out more about registering to vote, about voting, and about the candidates on our Florida voter guide. That's at wmnf.org/vote. Tell you what, they had one more question about the insurance crisis here in Florida, and what I'm going to do is put their answers to that question on our website, wmnf.org. It should be up in about 45 minutes or so, so I hope you tune into that if you'd like to hear what they say about the insurance crisis. Let me read through a couple of the text messages I've gotten in the last few minutes. Jerome writes, I feel like the people who think the election was stolen are idiots or disingenuous. They constantly complain about the anti-Trump sentiment everywhere, which is proof of the support for his opponent, Biden. The opposition to Trump is evident and prevalent. The election was not stolen, so stop lying to yourself. That's what Jerome says out there in cyberspace. Also, we have one other section of Jerome's email. He says, did Rocky just promote the Minority Report? So Jerome notes that. So appreciate everyone who participated in today's forum, and you can listen to this again. They were all recorded at Tampa Tiger Bay Club on Friday. So thanks to Chris Young for recording that. And if you missed any of it, you can listen back on our website, which is wmnf.org. You can also find information, as I said, on our Florida voter guide, wmnf.org/vote. This has been WMNF's Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan, and we have a great show planned for next Tuesday morning at 10. I'm going to speak to the publisher of the Gabber newspaper, Kathy Silvestri, about her new book called Amazing Florida. And during this time slot tomorrow, Shelley will host Midpoint. Coming up next is Wavemakers with Janet and Tom Scherberger. Their Wavemaker is Tampa City Council member Gwen Henderson, owner of the Black English Bookstore. Then at noon is Wide Awake America with Nadine Smith, and Nadine is going to speak with David Hogg. He's a survivor of the Parkland mass shooting. David shares his journey from a high school student thrust into activism to co-founding the March for Our Lives movement, which sparked one of the largest youth-led protests in U.S. history. David Hogg is going to discuss the ongoing challenges in the fight against gun violence, the critical need for youth engagement in politics. You've been listening to Tuesday Cafe, coming to you live on August 20th, 2024, primary election day, from the studios of WMNF, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, Lakeland, Brooksville, Bradenton, and beyond. Thanks so much for listening and for supporting community radio.